Awesome, thank you. Thank you all, good to be here. Really excited. I'm Mick, CEO and co-founder of Geyser, Stelios, CTO and co-founder. So we're here to talk about Geyser, and we have some cool announcements. So in case you didn't know, Geyser is a crowdfunding platform. Well, it's more like a fundraising platform, really, to help creators and any creator around the world to fundraise towards their ideas. And we see a lot of projects that have to do with Bitcoin education or culture, creatives, and also a lot of community builders that are using Bitcoin and Lightning to fundraise towards their projects and ideas. So, all right. So 1 year ago, we were at Bitcoin Amsterdam, and we were talking about the power of interoperable money and how Lightning really enables the interoperability of money, and really that has really a lot of really good impact on the creator economy. And we foreshadowed that we'd be looking at the interoperability of content, and we thought Nostr already back then was a good, interesting idea, and we said we looked more into it. And so we did. So we looked at the tech, the architecture. We saw that it could solve some real world problems for creators, and we also looked at the ecosystem of developers that was just booming, and as a result, we're basically very happy to, after many months of building, after many months of sitting down in stealth mode, happy to announce that we have entered the Nostrverse, and we'll talk a little more about what that means in a moment. For now, I'll just leave it to us having migrated over to Nostr. So, okay. So what are the main challenges? Let's first talk about some of the research we did around the main challenges that creators face today. And we've talked to creators. We've also looked at our data and also looked at the market research and just looking at what problems is Nostr solving. So let's take a quick look at that. So first of all, sorry the slides are a little broken here, but you can read it just fine, right? So really the first problem is around distribution of content. Creators at the moment feel that their content, they're kind of being locked in. They go to a platform, they create another account, and everything that they create exists inside that platform. It's all closed in. So as a result of that, all the content they create, whether it's a post or a media or it's a music, everything gets locked in the platform. While what they really want is they want their content to reach more people. They want their content to reach their community, to reach their social network, really. And the tools really just don't allow them to do that. Secondly, this is a really interesting one, and you might think it's a bit funny, but creators really actually say that being a creator is lonely. It's a lonely experience, right? So this is literally a creator telling me. And the reason for that is it's hard to create community, right? Because even platforms like Patreon, even Substack and OnlyFans, they all create these ability to create community, but that's just not where everyone is. Everyone's somewhere else. Everyone's either on YouTube or on Twitter or Facebook or TikTok. So there's this break of experience between the creation and the consumption of content. And I also want to stress this really important idea, which is that ideas rise in crowds. This is actually it's a physicist who said this, but and as a physicist, innovating in the realm of physics, he was asked like, where do these ideas come from? Well, it comes along by talking to people, by coming together as a community and discussing these interesting aspects. So. And this is true, particularly because ideas themselves don't belong to anyone. Ideas are not proprietary. Ideas belong to the community, right? So if you think about it, people come together in conversations, and that's when the ideas are born in the conversations. They're also nurtured by the community, right? Community feedback. They help you understand what the market need is for an idea. And finally, they're made possible by the community through constant engagement and interaction, and through these community contributions, whether people are contributing with their time or with their money. Right. And then thirdly, the third kind of creator pain point that we've seen is that creators want to be trusted and grow their reputation. But there's really, the reputation, their trust is really locked in their social networks, whether it's Twitter or Facebook and so forth. While all the content, all the activity that they're doing is on Geyser, on our platform, but it's somehow still, they're not able to basically improve their reputation on Twitter based on the activity that they're doing on Geyser. So again, the current tools offer little or no ability to measure and improve their own reputation. Okay, right. To recap, if I want to ask you guys if there's only one way to seamlessly distribute the content more widely, right? To create community interactions more deeply, and to create reputation systems in an open and permissionless way, right? Do you guys know of any? Yeah, we'll get into Nostr in just a second. One more interesting, do I have to face this way? Okay. Just want to look quickly at the kind of the evolution of creator platforms for the last 20 years. I think you like this interesting perspective in the market. Trying to see. Okay, right. So there's this cut graph that helps you see how easy the funding experience versus the social experience, right? So a bit of a business development slide, but it will help you really understand where things are at. So first of all, 2004, actually. Okay, we're missing a slide here, but 2004, 2006, we get Facebook, we get Twitter, we get also content consumption, content platforms like Spotify and YouTube. And right off the bat, right, you have these platforms that allow people to come together, and they offer great value because they connect people within their social networks. And that's what we did for many years. We're like, oh, let's be friends on Facebook because it helped to create that network online. And the platforms didn't really care about monetization because they could monetize off of that. They could monetize through ads, right? And so later on, 2008, 2010, we saw the emergence of crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and Indiegogo that were like, okay, well, you have this social graph. You can send them to the site and get funded. And through that, you can basically become a creator and raise money towards your idea. And this is a brilliant idea, but the two things were inherently separated because you didn't have actually a money of the internet, right? So they were relying on the social graph that was made available from the social media platforms. Right, so in the following years, 2013, 2020, we see the emergence of community platforms. So we saw platforms like Discord, like Telegram, creating communities. And at the same time, we see the emergence of creator platforms like Substack, Patreon, and OnlyFans that attracted an insane amount of creators and really brought the crowdfunding experience to the next level by improving the ability for creators to get funded through subscriptions, but also the ability for them to create a community through social features like posts, post replies. So really integrating social media features in their platforms. But there is a problem here, right? The problem is that most creator activity still takes place on the social networks. So if you look at the data, some interesting data here, that 60% of active Patreon creators, post one time per week or less on Patreon, right? So although these platforms enable social features taken from social media, they're still locking in creators in there and they're not able to leverage the social graph that exists on these traditional social networks. And as a result, these platforms, these creator platforms still only end up being useful in terms of the funding experience and the subscriptions. Right. So Stelios will go through the problem that Nostr solves.
Yeah. So as Mick just said, there is a sort of clear trend that is taking place on social and creator platforms that are moving towards integrating more of these social elements within them. But they're kind of limited in doing that because they're functioning within closed systems. So we'll see exactly why they're limited, how Nostr fixes this, and how we believe that Nostr is this paradigm shift in how creator platforms are evolving. So the first key problem is that these platforms are building on closed databases. If you're using Twitter, your tweets are going on Twitter, and they're visible to the users of Twitter. If you're using Facebook, they're visible to the Facebook users. If you're using Patreon, so on and so forth. Because of that, it means that your content is therefore visible to a limited reach. On one hand, this means that for creators that want to have a bigger presence on social media, it's a lot of work. They have to do repeated work. They have to go both on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok. And creators don't want to do that. They have already enough to do with their own work, so they don't do that, and they focus on one or two platforms. The first one is the platform that they put their content on. The second one is the platform that they monetize the content on. So to take an example of a YouTuber, he's going to post a video on YouTube where he has the largest reach for the video, and then he's going to link to his Patreon at the end of it and say, you can support me there, and you can have access to exclusive content on Patreon. And again, that really limits their reach. On the other hand, it fragments the conversation. And as Mick said previously, or quoted, conversations and ideas are born in crowds. So if you fragment the conversation, you actually limit the amount of feedback that can be shared on that idea. And you limit perhaps an insight that might make a project successful. So it can be the difference between a successful project or just a stale project that stays in its little island. And lo and behold, Nostr fixes that. Nostr fixes that because it is built on an open relay, open databases where content flows freely across platforms. So a user might still only be using Deimos, for example, but the content that he posts on Deimos is going to be visible on Iris, on Amethyst, on Snort, on any Nostr client that supports those types of events. And as a result, it expands the user reach, it expands the content reach without this additional work that the creator has to put in. And it helps them build a larger community in the end. The second problem with current creator platforms is that they're building on closed social graphs. And what we mean here by social graphs is basically the mapping between everybody and their relation to each other. And I think a clear example for Twitter users would be if you're viewing a profile on Twitter and Twitter tells you, 5 people that you know are also following that account that you're checking. And that serves a purpose. It's not just about showing an additional piece of data, it's actually solving the problem of trust. And you've probably seen that yourself. You might get followed by a person that has a large following, and it turns out they're an impersonator. And how do you find out? Is because you're checking their profile. They have 2,000 followers. Okay, great, check. They have all the content of the original creator. Check. But something's off because they're not followed by anyone that you followed, or very few. And that's how you find out that's actually, you check the Twitter handle and then something's off and it's not them, right? So let's think about what that means in the context of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is that relation between a contributor and the creator of the project. If you don't trust the creator or their work, you're not going to want to support their work. So you need to solve that reputation problem. And now if the social graph is closed and Twitter does not give access to the social graph to platforms like Geyser, we cannot solve that problem easily. We cannot show to the contributor that you have a relation within your social graph to that person, and how you relate within your own social graph to that person. And once again, it's a closed system through a fragmented social graph, and that ends up hurting the creator. There is a technical reason to all this, and that is that before Nostr, there was no protocol to be able to share and distribute that content freely. There was no protocol to have a shared social graph. And it's much harder to achieve this level of sharedness and interoperability when you have proprietary APIs. The amount of work that every platform needs to do well, it's one-to-one. Every integration you want to do, you have to go to Twitter and talk to their engineers or use their API. But there's a problem of incentives that is actually a bigger problem. That Twitter might have an API, but that doesn't mean they want you to use it, and that doesn't mean they will let you use it in whichever way you see fit or whichever way adds value to your own product. In fact, they might have an incentive not to let you use it because network effects are so important, and you want the largest network effect, and there is fragmented social networks, so the network effect is a competition rather than an additive relation like it is in Nostr. And the best example of that is X. And know that I'm saying X here because, well, it's not Jack's fault anymore. It is X. It is Mr. Musk. So from a day to another, X decided to make it a lot harder to use their API. They made it very costly. It's around $50,000 a month. So any company, and particularly smaller companies like ourselves, we cannot use it anymore. We cannot tap into that social graph. But it's larger companies as well. Like they got into a feud with Substack, and they basically banned Substack links because Substack was trying to get some of the network effects of Twitter to bring people within their own platform and take users away from Twitter, in a sense. There was also a phase where they didn't want you to share any other social network links, and it even became sort of a meme for Nostr users that if you share your npub on Twitter, you might get banned. And so people started saying, you know, here's this random string of characters, you might find it useful, you know, check it out. So Nostr solves this because it's open, permissionless. It's an open and permissionless social graph. No company owns it. And any company can plug into that existing social network of users without having to build their own and without the risk of being censored by a competitor. So, yeah. So, yeah, today we're saying, Mr. Elon Musk, take down that wall, right? Nostr is the solution to what X is becoming. That's what we're calling the open creator platform. By contrast to the closed creator platforms that we're seeing now, Nostr is bringing us to the open creator platforms. It's a world where creators are going to own their content and they're going to truly own their social network. Even if an individual client might end up censoring them or removing them from the client, excuse me, they still own that data. It still lives in a relay or multiple relays, perhaps even their own relay. So instead of a fragmentation, you get a shared network. And instead of proprietary APIs, you get a protocol. So if we look back at the diagram that Mick presented earlier, this is the direction that things are taking. Thanks to Nostr, any creator platform integrates more social features. So how did we apply this to Nostr? Well, first we needed to rethink. First we needed to rethink what projects are. And projects, they're more than just a short-lived crowdfunding campaign. They're actually ideas that grow into a life of its own, almost. They grow to reputation through proof of work. They get a larger following. And therefore, doesn't it make sense for every project to actually have its identity? And well, that's exactly what we did. Projects now have their own identity. Yeah, there we go. Projects have their own identity. Every project on Geyser from today will have its own npub. And every project will be visible both on Geyser and also on any other Nostr client. You'll be able to see a project as you see a profile on your Demus and Iris and so on. It's a small change in the interface, but it actually has huge implications. And so I will let Mick get into more details in those.
Right, so we are running out of time, but to be quick here, you know, this is the beginning. As Stelio said, the interface changes are not many. The project changes at the moment are not many, but this is rewiring Geyser from the bottom up. As you know, we mentioned you the line of thinking that we had, but now is going to be, now this is when stuff gets really exciting, because we can build so many features that will exist interoperably with other Nostr clients. And going back to the key problems we discussed, you got distributing content, right? We want to help creators distribute their content more widely, so we will integrate things like notes, long-form content on Nostr, enable interactivity with the community, so enabling hidden contents, roles, chats, but also growing trust, right? Be able to help you grow your trust within your network. But we couldn't do this without the amazing open source community on Nostr that builds all this wealth of open source code. And as a result of that, we decided to open up Geyser and make the front end open source to kind of give back to the community and really realign ourselves with the ethos. Also very important, we will initially be, well, at the moment we will be custodying the private keys for the existing projects, but we will allow them to export their private keys in this private key kit. 80% of our users are on Twitter, so it wouldn't be fair to be asking them to create a private key. It just doesn't work. We just don't have the tools for that, so we'll have to go with custody for existing projects. But in the coming months, we will enable non-custodial projects, so you can basically turn your profile into a project. Basically, Geyser will be that creator interface into your profile. It'll be like having a Twitter account, but on steroids for your creator kind of experience. So really, to conclude, you know, we're basically realigning Geyser around openness. The philosophy being open source building, the tech being focused on open relays and open social graphs, and the product also being open and interoperable features that we will keep producing NIPs and providing them to the community. So we are going to be hiring in the next few months, so we're looking for developers, designers, and if you're interested, just come and reach out to us so we can chat some more. You can find me here or on Nostr, Geyser Fund. And we will also be, since we're open source, we're going to be providing some bounties to developers, designers, and the community towards supporting us in particular tasks. So keep that in mind. And we also have some pretty cool swag by Bitco to kind of celebrate this really important moment for Geyser and for, we think, the creator economy. So just to conclude, welcome to the open creator economy. I'm really excited to be building on it, really bullish on creators. So let's go. Thank you all.